this be one of the best moments of your life. You're listening to the Business Mirror Podcast for a broader look on business with Senior Editor Dennis Estopase.
Good day. Welcome to the Business Mirror BM Broader Look Podcast. Today's podcast focuses on how the Philippine labor sector is coping with the impact of the lockdown measures against the COVID-19 pandemic. We podcast the abridged version of the story titled Private-Public Sectors Adjust as Pandemic Alters Shape of Philippine Labor Market. The story was written by Business Mirror reporter Samuel Medenilla and was published on November 4, 2020. For the text version online, please go to www.businessmirror.com.ph and search for Broader Look. For the print edition, please read the Business Mirror newspaper. Let's get on with the story. The sky above the labor market has been shaded a light red, as pink slips fell after the government attempted to sandbag a rampaging coronavirus disease 2019 pandemic. Latest data from the Department of Labor and Employment reported that as of October 25, nearly 4 million workers were affected, as lockdown measures almost tanked the economy. Of these employees, nearly 286,000 were permanently displaced either through retrenchment or the permanent closure of their establishments. Most of these workers were employed in administrative and support service activities, manufacturing, and other services activities. According to people working with the Department of Labor and Employment, data on displacement as of November 1 are still being processed. The Department of Labor and Employment nevertheless reported that only 104,718 workers were permanently displaced in the first half of the year. This is already exceeded by the number of jobless workers from July to September, which already reached nearly 121,000. For the first 2 weeks of October, the number of displaced workers already reached more than 66,000. Displaced workers or job seekers appear to be finding a safe haven in the public sector. During the first online job fair conducted by the Civil Service Commission last month, more than 161,000 people have registered and participated. Among the most popular vacancies in the week-long event were administrative assistant, data encoder, staff officer, and engineers. The Department of Interior and Local Government also announced it already employed an additional 26,872 contract tracers for the government's campaign against the pandemic. The Department of Interior and Local Government is targeting to hire a total of 50,000 contract tracers using the funding under the Republic Act 11494. This law provides for COVID-19 response and recovery interventions and providing mechanisms to accelerate the recovery and bolster the resiliency of the Philippine economy. Likewise, the Department of Health also announced it was able to fill up 9,275 of its 11,894 approved slots for emergency hiring. They were deployed in 345 health facilities nationwide. These mass hiring initiatives of the government continue as numerous workers in the private sector lose their jobs. Labor Coalition Nagkaisa expressed alarm over this development since it believes joblessness will push many workers to poverty, especially due to government's low funding for safety nets. Sentro na Nagkakaisa at Progresibong Manggagawa or Centro Secretary General Joshua Mata told the Business Mirror the trend will also affect union membership. Mata said the potential loss of membership due to company closures would have a long-term impact. Mata added that all labor unions would have to double time on their recruitment to recoup lost ground. Based on the latest data from the Bureau of Labor Relations, the number of private sector trade unions, federations, and industry unions dropped to 17,097 from January to June, from 17,775 in the same period last year. However, the number of workers who are affiliated with the same organizations for the first half of the year rose to about 1.589 million from 1.557 million year-on-year. This may change by the end of the year when permanent displacement is expected to skyrocket. Ani Giron, president of the Public Services Labor Independent Confederation, or PSLink, noted there are indeed available vacancies for displaced workers in the government, particularly for health care. But Giron expressed concern over the possible cost-cutting measures to be implemented by the government. Giron said they expect a reduction, especially for contractual job orders and contract of service, because of the lack of funds for maintenance and other operating expenses. Giron said there is already a Department of Budget and Management circular calling for austerity measures, so it is likely that rationalization of workforce is already happening in some government agencies, contingent to the mandates of departments, offices, agencies, and government bureaus. Last April, the Department of Budget and Management issued National Budget Circular 580, which called for austere measures by the government during the lockdown. However, Budget Secretary Wendell Avisado allayed concerns there will be any displacement in the public sector until up to next year due to lack of funding. Avisado noted that under the proposed 2021 national budget, all government offices will have sufficient budget to maintain their current workforce, including job orders and contracts of services. Avisado said in an online public forum that the Department of Budget and Management included enough miscellaneous services and benefit funds to assure that government workers, despite the situation during the pandemic, there will be no effort to retrench them. However, Eileen Lourdes Lizada, Commissioner of the Civil Service Commission, emphasized that erring public servants could still be removed from service even during the lockdown. Lizada said they have no policy preventing any termination during the pandemic. Always remember that public office is a public trust, Lizada said. If you are doing right, doing your job, then you have nothing to be afraid, Lizada said. But if you are doing something wrong, there is nothing to prevent government to take you out even during the pandemic, Lizada added. On its website, the Civil Service Commission said there are over 1 million vacancies available in the public sector. Lizada said this number excludes the vacancies which remain unfilled since the concerned government agencies have yet to publish the notice of vacancies. Lizada said the agencies cannot hire unless it is published first in the Civil Service Commission website. She estimated there are at least 100,000 unfilled positions in government. The concerned agencies were asked to finally start filling up the said position since this could provide new job opportunities for those who were displaced after lockdown measures were imposed against COVID-19. Meanwhile, PSLink President Giron is pushing for better government protocols that will minimize the exposure of public servants from COVID-19 infection. Public sector workers will have to adapt to fast-evolving new normal, new ways to deliver public services, Giron said. Giron said this could be done by capacitating government employees to use social media and online platforms to consult and ensure engagements with the public and allowing them to engage in flexible work arrangements. Lizada said the Civil Service Commission already released several issuances to facilitate the recommendations of PSLink. These include the adoption of homework arrangements, online appointment and registration system and disinfection activities. Most recently, they also issued a resolution to allow the extension of service for retiring public servants to ensure crucial jobs in the government will remain filled during the pandemic. Rene Ofreneo, former Dean of University of the Philippines School of Labor and Industrial Relations, emphasized that the government should strive to protect its workers protected from infection since this could affect many government services, particularly those in the healthcare facilities. Ofreneo also said the success of the government's much-touted Build infrastructure program will depend on keeping the construction workers involved in the said projects COVID-free. If successfully done, he said this could help boost the country's recovery from the national economic and health crisis. Ofreneo said the government should tweak the Build program to focus on community rebuilding and possible hiring en masse of the informal workers under cash for work. Ofreneo said this is good stimulus, low cost, but inclusive. The government economic manager said the state's infrastructure projects will help generate millions of employment for workers who were displaced from the crisis.
Thank you for listening to the Business Mirror podcast. For a broader look on business, follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Business Mirror. Until next time.